Hashtag revised Michael Jackson story. In front of 72,000 people, Michael Jackson stopped his entire show just to hold the hand of one dying child. No one in that stadium could have imagined that the king of pop would walk off stage, not because of fame or scandal, but because of one little girl in yellow. It was July 16th, 1988, Wembley Stadium. The energy was electric, the stage was set, and Michael Jackson was about to deliver what many would call the performance of a lifetime. But what happened that night would become something far greater than any choreographed routine or hit song. In the VIP section sat 7-year-old Sarah Matthews, her frail body dwarfed by the wheelchair, wearing her favorite yellow dress that seemed to glow under the stadium lights. She clutched a handmade sign that read, "Michael, I love you forever," with shaking hands. Sarah had been battling leukemia for 3 years, and the doctors had delivered devastating news just weeks before. She had maybe 2 months left. Her parents had done the impossible to get her there. They sold their car, begged charities, and finally, with the help of Make-A-Wish, Sarah sat in that VIP section, her one dream about to come true. Michael burst onto the stage with explosive energy. His movements were fluid perfection, each step choreographed to absolute precision. He commanded the stage like the true king he was, delivering song after song of pure magic. The crowd was mesmerized, completely under his spell. But as Michael moved into human nature, something stopped him cold. In the VIP section, a small figure in yellow seemed frozen while everyone around her was jumping and screaming. This little girl sat perfectly still, her tiny hands pressed against her chest, tears streaming down her face. Even from the stage, through the blinding lights and roaring crowd, Michael could see something was terribly wrong. Sarah was overwhelmed. The music she'd dreamed of hearing was finally washing over her, but her frail body was failing her. The excitement, the thunderous noise, the blazing lights, it was all too much for someone so fragile. She began to shake uncontrollably, and her breathing became desperate, labored. The music stopped. The stadium froze. 72,000 people held their breath. Was it a mistake? Had Michael forgotten the lyrics? No. What happened next would shock the world. Michael Jackson wasn't looking at his band or his crew. His laser focus was locked on that little girl in yellow. Behind the scenes, he was moving with a determination that left his entire team speechless. He'd spotted Sarah's distress and, without a word to anyone, was striding toward the edge of the stage with tunnel vision. His security team scrambled in confusion. The show director frantically tried to get his attention. But Michael had only one mission now. He jumped down from the stage, something that was absolutely not in any script, manual, or protocol. The crowd gasped as their idol moved through the barrier and into the VIP section like a man possessed. People reached out desperately to touch him, but he had only one destination in mind. Subscribe and comment now. The most incredible part of this story is about to unfold. And here's the moment that changed everything. The part that no one saw coming. Michael Jackson knelt down beside Sarah's wheelchair with the gentleness of a father. The sequined glove slipped from his hand, that legendary symbol of his stardom, worth thousands of dollars, the very essence of his mystique. And in its place, his bare skin met hers, fragile and trembling, but suddenly alive with hope. "Hello, beautiful," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the crowd's stunned murmurs. "What's your name?" "Sarah," she managed to whisper back, her eyes wide with disbelief that her hero was actually there, actually talking to her. "Sarah, that's a beautiful name for a beautiful girl. Are you okay? Do you need anything?" The entire VIP section had become a cathedral of emotion. Sarah's parents were sobbing. The people around them were crying. Even the hardened security guards, men who'd seen everything, had tears streaming down their faces. Sarah looked up at Michael with such pure, innocent love and said, "I just wanted to hear you sing. I've been waiting so long." Michael smiled that gentle smile that the world rarely saw. Not the performer's dazzling grin, but the real one, the one that came from his soul. "Would you like me to sing just for you?" She nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. Still holding her hand, Michael began to sing "She's Out of My Life" a cappella. His voice, pure and unfiltered, filled that section of the stadium like a prayer. It wasn't the high-energy spectacle everyone had paid hundreds to see. It was something infinitely more precious. It was intimate. It was raw. It was love in its purest, most vulnerable form. As he sang, something miraculous happened. The 72,000 people in that massive stadium began to join in, softly at first, then building into a chorus that seemed to lift Sarah up and cradle her in sound. She was no longer a sick little girl watching from the sidelines. She was the center of a moment that would echo through eternity. When the last note faded into silence, Michael reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small, white silk handkerchief, the one he'd been using throughout the show, soaked with his own sweat and tears. He gently dabbed Sarah's cheeks and then placed it carefully in her small hands. "This is for you, Sarah. Every time you hold it, remember that you are loved by everyone here tonight, and especially by me. You're not just my fan, you're my hero." But the story doesn't end with that magical night. Sarah Matthews lived for 8 more months, far longer than any doctor had predicted. She carried that handkerchief everywhere, and her parents later said that whenever she felt scared or in pain, she would hold it close and remember that night at Wembley when the King of Pop made her feel like the most important person in the universe. When Sarah finally lost her battle, her parents found a letter tucked under her pillow, one she'd written but never had the strength to send. "Dear Michael, thank you for stopping your whole show just for me. When you held my hand, I felt like I could fly. I felt like I mattered more than anything. I felt like the most special person in the world. I hope when you're sad, you remember that you made a little girl feel like a princess for one perfect night. You are my forever hero. All my love, Sarah." The handkerchief was buried with her, but its story lived on in ways that would change the world. This single moment transformed Michael Jackson at his core. After that night, he began weaving charitable work into every aspect of his tours. He established the Heal the World Foundation, partly inspired by his connection with Sarah. He would often speak about how that little girl in the yellow dress had taught him life's most important lesson. That fame means nothing if you can't use it to touch individual lives. But here's what most people don't know. Michael kept a photograph from that night, one taken by a fan in the VIP section showing him kneeling beside Sarah's wheelchair, their hands intertwined. He carried it with him for the rest of his life. Band members and crew would later say that before every show, Michael would look at that picture and whisper, "This is why we're here." Michael Jackson was many things to many people. The king of pop, a revolutionary artist, a cultural phenomenon. But perhaps his greatest performance was understanding that sometimes the most powerful thing a person can do is stop everything they're doing and simply hold someone's hand. That handkerchief became a symbol that transcended music, fame, and celebrity. It represented a truth that Michael Jackson lived by, that in a world obsessed with spectacle and surface, the most meaningful moments are often the quietest ones. It proved that music isn't just entertainment. It's healing, it's connection, it's love made audible. The ripple effects of that night continued long after both Michael and Sarah were gone. Fans began sharing their own stories of compassion, of stopping to help others, of remembering what really matters. Concert venues started incorporating more accessibility features. Other artists began following Michael's example of connecting with individual fans during their shows. Years later, when reporters would ask Michael about his greatest achievements, the record sales, the Grammy Awards, the sold-out stadiums, he would always bring up Sarah. "She reminded me," he would say, "that we're all just people trying to feel less alone in the world. Share this story and subscribe. Make this moment unforgettable." Today, in our social media-obsessed world where everything is about going viral and getting views, Sarah and Michael's story stands as a beacon of what authentic human connection looks like. It reminds us that the greatest performances aren't always on stage. They're in the quiet moments when we choose to see someone else's pain and do something about it. The yellow dress Sarah wore that night was donated to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where it sits next to one of Michael's sequined gloves. Not the one he removed that night, but a replica because the original was never found. Some say Michael kept it. Others believe it was lost in the chaos of that emotional evening. But maybe, just maybe, it doesn't matter where it is. Maybe what matters is what it represented. The moment when the world's biggest superstar became simply human. Because sometimes the greatest performance of all is compassion. Subscribe, share, and keep this legacy alive. In a world that often feels divided and disconnected, we need more people willing to stop their show, remove their armor, and simply be present for someone who needs them. We need more moments like Sarah and Michael's. Moments that remind us that beneath all the noise and spectacle, we're all just searching for the same thing. To know that we matter, that we're seen, that we're loved. The music may have stopped that night at Wembley, but the echo of that moment continues to resonate. And every time someone chooses compassion over convenience, connection over indifference, love over fear, Sarah's spirit lives on, and Michael's greatest song continues to play.